Disclaimer, I am pregnant, so this is a little bit emotional for me. But I just wanted to make this video before I forget everything that happened leading up to me being pregnant, in case somebody out there needs to see it, to let go of the idea or to find hope if that's useful or helpful for you and your mental health, or just to get some more perspectives and more stories and information. So I'm pregnant, but it is not expected. We were given pretty much zero chance of getting pregnant based on me and my health. And so my husband and I kind of let that idea go. 8 months pregnant. and moved on with other things, which was good. And actually, we didn't even move on for very long, and I got pregnant somehow. But every medical professional I've talked to who's looked at my test results is shocked that I was even having regular periods. So I just want to, preface this with that. This is not I don't have an attitude of you can do it. Like if your levels are like mine, you have a good chance. That's not what I'm saying. There's a shot. There's always a shot, as long as you have some viable eggs, I guess they're called. But according to my results, I either had very few or not enough, and usually that means they're not viable. But our baby is fine. So I would say, I guess I should start in the beginning of everything. I'll try to put some time markers in the description in case you just want to skip to the part that's relevant or helpful to you. So I got married in 2016, and my husband always wanted kids, and I was kind of thinking about it. And so we've been married maybe 6 months when we decided to try. And we only tried for a few months, and I started getting some really serious pain with my periods, and I said something's wrong. My mom had ovarian cysts, and I remember how she used to kind of go and grab her side. And I was doing the same thing, and so I said, I need to go see a doctor. I live in Mexico also, and so I wasn't sure where to go. I went to my cousin-in-law's doctor. Did not have a good experience, but that's beside the point. He said, yeah, there's cysts in there, 2 of them, in your right ovary. And that was actually the first time I remember somebody struggling to find my left ovary. And he ended up doing an internal ultrasound, so he did find it. But that's important for things that happened later on. Anyway, the cysts were in my right ovary, so they didn't usually work too hard to find the left one anyway. And I didn't like him. He didn't talk to me. He talked to my husband, which made me mad. So I went to my mother-in-law's gynecologist after that to see what we could do about the cysts. I basically just got diagnosed with the first cut, but I didn't get any kind of help or treatment or anything, which was pretty upsetting because that was the whole reason I was there. So I went to my mother-in-law's gynecologist, and she was lovely, and but she didn't do any testing or anything. She just said, you probably have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And she said, let's put you on birth control to get rid of them and to get the pain under control, basically. So I started taking a birth control here. It's called Diane. It's spelled like Diane. And I guess it's it's not a mini pill. It's one of the stronger ones, whatever that is. And the plan was to just be on it for 6 months or so. And then I would come off of it, once everything was looking better, I would come off of it and we would try again. Life happens, and it was about a year later that we decided we started talking about that. And we went to the doctor and got a plan, and I started taking prenatals and stuff like that. And my husband had to quit smoking. So sad. And then we moved, and so that got put on hold again. We ended up moving halfway across the country, and then I just kept taking the pill. And we were here where we live now for about a year, And I said, let's just go straight to a fertility doctor because I have PCOS. For those of you who don't know, because it's not actually what I have, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, lots of cysts in the ovaries. And it's another thing that can make getting pregnant difficult, but not as bad as what I actually have. And it's oftentimes manageable, or it can be handled, and you definitely have fertility options. Not to say that it's not difficult, I just didn't, it wasn't impossible, with PCOS, it wasn't impossible to get pregnant. So we went straight to a fertility doctor, and he said, well, let's take a look. And he looked, and again, had a hard time finding my left ovary. And he said, these aren't polycystic ovaries. And I was like, but I'm on, a pill. And he's like, even with that, you would still have more. And he looked at my scans from before when I had the 2 cysts. He's like, these are just random cysts. This isn't an ovary that's polycystic. And I was like, oh, great. And he's like, yeah, everything's great. Uterus is good to go, And he said, let's just run all the tests that we would normally run anyway and make sure that everything is fine. Sorry, I have a hard time breathing again, heavily pregnant. And so I was like, okay, great, we'll do that. So one thing you have to know about here in Mexico is they give you your results. They give them to you. You go to the lab, you give them a little thing the doctor gave you. They run all the tests, you pay, and they give you your results like in a couple days or whenever they're ready. So I got them, and I have Google. So obviously I knew before the doctor that there was a problem. Everything was normal except my FSH. Shoot, I can't remember what that stands for. If you're watching this video, you know what it is. FSH of 28, which is essentially premenopausal, almost menopausal. I think it's 30 that's menopausal or something. And anything over 10 is like not good for reproduction. So it's very, very not good. And I was, I'm Googling, and I'm like, is it because I was on the pill for so long? Like, what was the deal? No, it could be a little elevated from that, but not 18 points, so it was pretty bad. And I knew what it meant, but obviously I still went back to the doctor, and he was like, probably what you have is premature ovarian failure. I think there's lots of names for it, but that's just what it makes sense to me in my brain, so that's what I call it. So when you're born as a baby, this is my understanding, when you're born as a baby, you already have all your eggs. That's a thing. Females already have all their eggs that they're ever going to have in their whole life when they're born, before they're born. And I guess there's lots of different things that happen with premature ovarian failure. Some people were born with normal amounts of eggs, healthy ovaries, but then they had some sort of treatments for cancer or some sort of autoimmune problem or different things that caused that number to be reduced faster than usual, or that caused them to be, if they had autoimmune problems, maybe they were born with that. I'm not sure. I don't fall into any of those categories, so I didn't research that much. I'm just an anomaly where I'm 30, by the way. This all happened when I was 29. Where you just don't, your ovaries are really small, and you don't have a lot of eggs, and it's just they're not great ovaries, basically. And your egg quantity and sometimes quality is not good. So that was a concern too. Because of my age, it was more likely that I just didn't have very many or any. But you never know the quality when you have such low numbers of eggs, which you might be asking, how do you know how many eggs you have? Well, there's another test, which he then said, he pretty much told me, like, that's what it is. But if you want to be extra sure, you can go have this other test done. It was expensive. So he was like, if you want. I was like, I want. And it's something where they test a hormone level or something. Anyway, it tells them like how many eggs you have, basically, somehow. And it's the AMH, anti-Mullerian hormone something. Again, I'm having I'm a little fuzzy now. It's been a bit. But that he told me, I think he told me anything above zero point 0.3, and we might be able to try some IVF type drugs and like get me to ovulate and see, because that would mean there might be something in there basically. And he said anything below 0.3 and you're kind of done, you know. And it came back 0.24, so it was a pretty, you know, and obviously, like I said, I got that result myself. So I didn't go back, because he'd pretty much told me he wasn't gonna try with my eggs, and he was already, before I even got that result, pushing for donor eggs. So we went to another specialist, just kind of grasping at straws, hoping that, you know, somebody else would maybe take a chance on my eggs, even though they were few and who knows what quality. But like, we got a quote for how much it's gonna cost, so much, and I just said, I need a break. I told my husband I need a break, and you know, they're saying this isn't even going to work anyway, and I don't really want to do the donor egg thing. I had a few people in my life that maybe I would have considered accepting something like that from, but none of them fit like the required criteria. They were already too old, or didn't have kids yet, so they weren't recommended, or different things. And how do you ask somebody that? You know, I had one friend volunteer it, which was so nice, but she was out of the age range. And you know, it didn't seem like something that was going to work for me, because I didn't want a stranger to donate. And I was up for adoption, but my husband wasn't. So it's not really a common thing down here. And I know people who've adopted and have, you know, wonderful relationships with their children and everything, and you know, he doesn't. So it was a little harder for him. And so after probably like a month, maybe a couple weeks of discussing all of this, and we just both kind of realized we had to come to terms with probably not having a family, which I'd only wanted a family for a couple of years, to be honest. It took me a while to come around to the idea and not be really scared. And I wasn't anymore, but I'd only felt that way for a couple of years, and he had wanted kids like forever. So I think it was harder for him. But we weren't that old, you know, and I was like, I'm not going to push him for adoption, obviously. It's like, but maybe in 5 years, he may change his mind. He may not, you know. But he married me knowing that I might not have wanted kids either, and I did change my mind. Anyways, so this was in 2019. In March, I did the test of FSH. In April, I did the AMH. In May, I missed a period. And I think, or April or May, I don't remember. And it must have been the stress, because it did come back the month after that. But I thought it was premenopause, because everybody was telling me, you're going to start menopause soon. You need to start thinking about all the replacement hormones and stuff, so you don't get like brittle bones. What do you call that thing? When you need calcium, because when you get like 45, 50, you start having problems with bone density. That word's leaving. Anyways, and so when my period stopped, I was like, that's what it is. And then it came back. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I said to my husband, let's just like, you know, kind of casually try while I have my period, and while we, you know, just kind of move on with our lives and think about other things, and maybe save some money and try next year to see if we can at least stimulate my ovaries to ovulate or something. Because that wasn't as expensive, and everything else between us worked. So, you know, I was like, we can give it a casual try, but let's not think about IVF, because apparently that's not really an option, and it would be super expensive and probably not work. And so we both were talking about like doing master's degrees. Maybe we started looking into moving to Europe and different things like that. And we casually tried for like 2 months, and then I don't know, the reality, I think, of it sunk in. Like, this isn't going to happen. You don't have any eggs, and you're not ovulating. Oh, that was another result that I had somewhere. I wasn't ovulating, according to another test result. I was like, okay, well, let's just move on. Let's find other interests. Let's visualize the future differently. And so we were doing that. And like I said, we tried for a couple of months and then we kind of weren't really trying. And I remember one time things had happened, as they do. And the next, I think 2 days later, I had a weird feeling. And I don't know how to describe that. I just had a weird feeling. And I decided I didn't want to participate in activities for a little bit. And I just said, I don't remember what I said. I was a little cranky too because I started getting little pinches. And that's how the cysts had started. And I was like, oh, here we go again, with the cysts and everything. I was like, I don't want cysts. So I started a diet and exercise plan because they had told me it might be because of my weight. And so I started exercising and I was swimming several times a week and I was doing that Noom thing on the app or whatever, which I did like. And I had been doing that about 2 weeks when I realized my period was late. And I was so mad. I remember the day before I took a pregnancy test just to kind of get it out of the way. I was so angry because I was just about to turn 30. And all the feels coming back. I was just about to turn 30 and I was maybe having cysts because I still felt a little pinchy. And there was no period. And I was like, well, why would I have a cyst if I didn't ovulate? And I don't know. There were a lot of things going through my head, but I was just really mad because I thought it was the beginning of like perimenopause. And that's what I was expecting, But I had hoped I had a little more time. And it was just very like real in that moment. I was really mad. And I just decided the next day I was like, and I wasn't going to take a pregnancy test. I was just going to be menopausal. And the next day I was kicking stuff around my house, just being mad. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go just get one so I could take it, see that it's negative for the millionth time in my life, and move on. And so I went and got it. And it was in the afternoon. And I was like, well, I'm like 2 or 3 days late. I don't think it matters. I'll just like drink a bunch of water and hold my pee for a couple hours and then try it. And it was one of those ones where like you get like a cross if it's positive. And I always like did it in a cup because I have bad aim. So I dipped it in the cup and then I put it flat like you're supposed to. And I was just making sure that I left it in long enough and that the liquid was going to go up all the way. And it was immediately positive. And I didn't believe it, I did because I'd never gotten a positive before, but I didn't. And so we went to the store. I went to the store around the corner because my husband was supposed to be home really quickly and just got like a little baby food thing. He didn't get it, but like I let him be happy for like 15 seconds. I was like, okay, get your stuff. We have to go to the lab right now and do the blood test. Because like I mentioned, you just go to the lab here. So they were going to close in like 25 minutes. So we ran over and did the blood test really fast. And when that was positive, then I was like, okay, I'm pregnant. But obviously we were still concerned because of that whole egg quality thing that I mentioned before. And so it wasn't until probably they sent me, they kind of treated me like I was 45, my OBGYN, after seeing my results. Because I brought them to the first ultrasound at 8 weeks. Like, you need to know what's going on here. She was like, you were having periods? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you shouldn't have been having periods. I'm like, sorry about it. But she was like, okay, we're gonna treat this pregnancy as kind of an unknown, kind of as if you were close to menopause as like a 45-year-old woman until we get past some anatomy scans and stuff. And so that's what we did. I did lots of extra testing. I had 3 anatomy scans because I had another cyst on the placenta, and they weren't sure if it was a tumor or a cyst. So that was a scary month, but it is a cyst, and it's not growing, and it's not affecting anything. I'm just cyst prone, I guess. But at any rate, that was a big surprise to us. And so I guess that's why I'm saying I want to be careful because I don't want to give anybody false hope. We are not anticipating being able to have another kid. there's I read about some sort of phenomenon where when you're about to start menopause, like your body just kind of throws all the eggs out there, and we feel like maybe that's what happened. Once I stopped stressing and stuff, it just kind of was like the last hurrah. That's how some like grandmas get pregnant sometimes, you know. And so I fully expect within a year or two of having our baby that I'll probably start menopause. So it's not like this problem just went away. We just got really, really lucky and get to have a kid. So at least, you know, one. And my OBGYN is like, if you want another one, you better do it in the first year. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be ready for that so quick together. But so I don't want to give false hope, because I really had to let go of that whole idea. And I really think that if we had kept trying and kept struggling, I would have been too stressed and it might not have happened, you know, because there's no other reason why I missed that period except I was incredibly stressed out that month, and upset, you know, maybe depressed a little bit. So yeah, I don't want to give false hope. I keep saying that. But this is a miraculous situation, you know. Any medical professional who hears my numbers, sees my numbers, is like, this shouldn't have happened, you know. So if your numbers are like mine or worse, my honest advice is just to let it go. And that's easier said than done, even for me, who hadn't really had that idea for very long, but let alone for somebody who's wanted kids for like their whole life, you know. But I really think that that's the best thing you could do, in my experience, and it still doesn't guarantee anything. But we did, over those 4 or 5 months, get to the point where we were okay with it, you know. And we weren't thrilled still, you know, like we were excited about our other plans and everything that we had made, but we weren't over it by any means, but we were okay with it. We had come to terms, I guess, is what I would say. And I was not depressed anymore. And we were finding new interests and making new plans and stuff like that. So I hope, you know, if you're out there and you have these numbers and you have this condition, I hope you find a way to make peace with it, whether that's, you know, finding new interests, or that's trying IVF in any way, or, you know, whatever it is that you need to do. Just make sure that you put your mental health out there in front, because you don't want to end up with some sort of depression or something like that. I would also mention that I had counseling during that time. I used, what was it? It's like an online one. Anyway, there's online options, since we're all in not quarantine. Quarantine's the wrong word. We're all in social isolation right now. Yeah, stay-at-home order or whatever. So if you're thinking, oh, but I can't like go to the doctor or whatever, and my fertility stuff is on hold anyway, like, great, like, focus on something else. And don't be afraid to look for help. There are online services that can provide mental health guidance with professionals, trained professionals. You know, don't just pick anybody. But that's really important, and it's a good investment, and they can help you to move on if that's what you need to do. Or they can help you sort out what it is that you need to do to be able to move on. Because I think for some people, a lot of people really have to try first in order to move on. And I didn't, just because my numbers are so bleak and it was so expensive out of pocket, you know, and I was just like, it's not going to happen. So I didn't have to try to be able to move on. But I think for a lot of people, you do need to try something in order to be able to move on. So sort that out with a mental health professional. That would be of use. Now I feel like I'm just rambling, so I think I'm going to end this here. If you have any questions for me, nice questions, be nice to me. I'm sensitive, generally, and especially now. But if you have any questions about anything I said, because I think I don't know, it might have been rambly. I'll do my best to answer them, look at them, and answer them. So good luck to everybody out there, and don't be afraid to find happiness wherever you can. All right, bye.